All right, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I don't think that the Judge and Batman are all that different. Let the comments ensue. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you all once again. And if you're new here, thank you for stopping by. I think that you're going to enjoy this show because we're going back and looking at cartoons that we grew up on in the 80s and 90s and breaking them down and looking at them from the perspective of an adult 20 plus years later. So if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, then just hop below and hit the subscribe button as well as the like button, because I'm sure that you're going to enjoy this. And right now we're kind of winding down on the new Batman adventures as we talk about Judgment Day, which originally aired on Halloween, October 31st in 1998.
And I find you guilty.
From what I understand, this episode was actually the last produced episode of the new Batman Adventures, which seems like an odd choice to end the series on that, but maybe they didn't know that they didn't have any more episodes left. But it is kind of interesting that the title of it is Judgment Day, which is usually indicating the end of something and the final judgment. Judgment Day, you get what I'm saying. But it is a kind of a neat story. It's kind of an interesting take on everything. And it has a great twist at the end. But I don't think that the Judge and Batman are fundamentally that far apart for Batman to be pursuing the Judge. Seems a little hypocritical. But we'll talk all about that right after our 60-second Joker Bomb rundown of the episode. I'm going to give you a breakdown synopsis of the episode so you know what we're talking about if you haven't seen it. In about 60 seconds. I keep trying to say that I'll do it in less than 60 seconds, but basically when this bomb goes off in 60 seconds, and see if I can get done before it does. The Penguin is making some deals with Killer Croc and Two-Face, selling some things and not giving him a great deal on this. And then he's visited by the Judge, this mysterious cloaked figure that is bringing judgment to him for doing all these evil things. And then we see Croc trying to rob a toll booth, a bank car, and then the Judge comes down on him. And then we find out about this congressman that's working with the Judge and kind of supplying him some information if he's so inclined. And as he does that, then the Judge is going to visit the Riddler and coming down on all these other villains, and they warn Two-Face that you're going to be next. So Batman visits Two-Face and says, "Oh, you got to come with me." And the Judge shows up on the monitor and says, "Oh, you can't do that. We're going to get you." But there was a trap door that only Two-Face knew about that was blocked as well, and so but they barely get out. And then we find out later that the Judge is Two-Face. It is the third persona of Two-Face, and they finally capture him and take him off to Arkham. Does that count? Does it count? I mean, I know it blew up, but it was like words were coming out of my mouth.
Oh.
These type of stories I think are kind of fun, where we kind of take a twist on the anti-hero element. And we've seen various versions of this, and we've seen it done well, and we've seen it done not so well. And I think the element that they're always missing in these stories is dealing with the duality of Batman and these characters. Is that it's just sort of widely accepted that Batman's a vigilante, which is illegal, but he kind of has a pass with Commissioner Gordon. And they do make the reference, the congressman makes a reference in this that,
I figure if Gordon can have his hero, why can't I have mine?
And we bring in the Judge, who is also a vigilante, who's also trying to bring down criminals. And it's sort of like you can't be mad at this guy for trying to do this because these are bad guys. And that just in general is just a huge moral question. And it applies to Batman and it applies to everybody else of taking matters into your own hand.
Easy, Harvey. It's the good cop.
Now, don't get me wrong, the Judge is kind of going to an extreme, and he's putting these criminals' lives in danger. And if it wasn't for Batman to be there to rescue Croc would have smashed on the pavement and been dead, presumably. Now we know the the internal workings of Batman to know that he has this moral code, that he's not going to kill people, he's not going to cross that thin line between him and the villains sometimes, that he is doing what's right, and he does like capture these people and help the police and turn them in. And that's kind of where the Judge is skewed from. But put yourself into the story by public opinion. When you see Batman interrogating somebody and nearly dropping him off a building and capturing him again and asking him, I mean, yeah, what's too far? Where's the limit?
Not that I'm criticizing your work, mind you. You've done a heck of a job.
So yes, I think fundamentally there is a difference in that presumably the Judge would kill people or is trying to kill people to stop them from doing evil, and Batman wouldn't. But I think public opinion-wise, you could flip-flop either way. I mean, on one side you're going, boy, I hope the Judge just kills these maniacs and gets them off the street. Now, again, it could be argued that he's dealing with the Penguin, which is more of a gangster, mobster, white-collar crime sort of criminal.
If you ever knew what I really cleared.
Versus the Joker or somebody that's really, or Zaz, who's really murdering people and killing people. But yeah, it's just it's a really fine line between the two.
And you're worse than a thief.
Truthfully, I think one of the most disappointing parts about this episode is their use of the Riddler. This is the only speaking appearance of the Riddler in the new Batman Adventures. And I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure he appeared. We see him in one of the previous episodes, but he doesn't speak. He has a whole new redesign for the new Batman Adventures, but he didn't get his own episode. And he never got featured really predominantly. I mean, he has one line in this episode, and that is, in fact, John Glover.
Hey, diddle diddle. Time for a riddle.
He is way underutilized, and unfortunately, that was kind of the trend through the series. On one hand, I'm going, the Judge got his own episode, and Riddler was kind of thrown in there, and I would have rather seen the Riddler get completely their own episode over the Judge, but throughout the series, I do like that there's a nice mixture of those staple Rogues Gallery villains and some of these lesser known or more obscure or brand new villains featured in the episodes.
It's about time someone threw the book at you.
The element of the councilman in the episode is kind of a neat duality again, kind of mirroring Gordon's role in Batman's life. Is that we have this councilman that is running for office and supplying the Judge with material. It kind of adds a neat layer to it, but I don't feel like he really added that much to the character. I mean, the Judge in himself is kind of a dry gimmick compared to a lot of the other wackier villains that we see in Batman. Here's a guy that's just all in black and has the white powdered wig, throwback to the old style of the judges on the bench, and you can't see his face at all. It's all in shadow. So it's just not really a very exciting villain gimmick-wise. And then the other kind of supporting character in that is a councilman, a councilman-elect, I should say, that is running for office. So when you look at those elements, it's sort of unexciting, I guess would be the best way to put it.
My polls have shot up 10 points since endorsing you.
Now, I do really enjoy the twist at the end that we find out that the Judge is actually the third personality of Harvey Dent. So in those terms, it makes sense. Harvey Dent was originally a lawyer, district attorney before he became Two-Face. And so it makes sense in terms of this third personality kind of remaining dormant in his psyche that comes out during this period of time and kind of taps into that part of him that is trying to still do good, still trying to bring down criminals as he was when he was a DA. And so it's kind of fun, kind of interesting, kind of unique in that sense, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense because that's the whole thing of Two-Faces. It's dual personality, split personality, twos, halves, double good, bad.
Both of them.
Whereas I would say the Judge persona is an extreme version of Harvey Dent. You know, he's almost sort of the middle ground between the maniacal evil ways of Two-Face and the willingness, desire to do good of Harvey Dent. You kind of mash them in the middle and you get the Judge, which is a maniacal vigilante that's just trying to bring down criminals. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird, like, it all makes sense, but at the same time that just takes the Two-Face Harvey Dent person that we all know and love and kind of changes things a little bit. So this third personality of Two-Face.
He knew everything about Two-Face, except that he was Two-Face.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it's fun. It's not a bad episode. I know when I critique some of these episodes, digging into some of the nuances and details of that it doesn't always go over so well, that it appears that I'm being too harsh on these episodes. And I don't want anybody to get me wrong. It's not that any of these episodes are bad. It's just in the nature of this show, I'm trying to rank the episodes in my list of favorites. And so not all of them can be number one, not all of them can be top 10. And so I have to find reasons sometimes of what puts this episode above or below another one. And this one for me is kind of a middle ground episode. There's nothing real spectacular about it. The twist at the end is kind of neat to figure out that it's Two-Face, but like I said, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense in the continuity of the characters. And then the rest of the motif of this ends up just being, oh, it's a judge running around kind of acting like Batman, but in a bad way, and this councilman that's kind of trying to flesh out the story a little bit. So there's just nothing spectacular about the episode. So taking all those things into consideration, it falls at the number 17 spot of my favorite episodes so far. It's just below You Scratch My Back because that has this great dynamic between Selena Kyle and Dick Grayson. And I think what would have benefited this episode if they played more into that emotional Batman trying to save his friend Harvey Dent or free him from this. And although Batman goes in and saves Two-Face, even though he backstabs him, that I think that we could have played on those emotional elements a little bit more in this episode would have benefited. But it does beat out Critters because I still feel like Critters is just such an offshoot from what we're used to with Batman adventures, that we're on a farm and we have giant creatures that are critters, I guess, that are attacking. That this one feels more like a Batman episode.
I wish I had a nickel for every time I heard you say that.
So what do you think? Does it make sense for Harvey Dent, Two-Face, to have a third personality? Or do you agree with me that just seems kind of off in the nature of the character? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, then please click the like button. If you want to see more episodes like this, then just hit subscribe. I have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. And next up, we're going to be talking about the episode Beware the Creeper. So be sure to not miss that one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. I'll see you soon.